welcome to Dead On, the show that talks about the Constitution, the law, and current events. And I want to say that this is an attorney advertisement, and nothing said here should be taken as attorney advice. Now, I've got John Dawson here, who's a very scholar on legal issues, and we're talking about finance today, which is a little out of our realm, but there's some very interesting things going on with a company called Gamestop. And there's something that John's going to explain, I hope, that's called about shorting a stock. And John, can you tell us a little bit about GameStop and what happened?
Well, GameStop is a retail brick and mortar video game sales outlet, essentially. They are starting to develop an internet presence for web sales, but basically their stock has been falling year over year. And when
can you repeat? It's been falling or following?
Falling.
Oh, like so it's been going down.
Sorry.
So GameStop started at a certain number that's going down.
GameStop's stock has been falling year over year.
Is that because it's a brick and mortar, and brick and mortar is dead?
And because they just well, I don't know how COVID has affected it, but the bottom line is that they were down under $20 when all this stuff started.
Okay, so wait a minute. In the olden days, didn't you have record store? What was the name of those record stores?
Tower Records.
Tower Records. And then they got these, everything became digital, and Tower Records was a brick and mortar,
I mean, there were a few steps in between, but they pretty much went to
and for the people out there,
everything.
John, for the people who don't understand the terminology, what does brick and mortar mean?
Sorry, brick and mortar is a actual store or a mall or retail outlet on a street corner. It has a street address,
it's a place where customers go.
It's not just online sales.
Okay, it's a place where customers go physically.
They walk in, they can look at the product, they can test the product,
and there's real people there. There's real people called salespeople, salesmen, and saleswomen.
Yes,
the
dinosaurs.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of what brick and mortar is. It's like the olden days when you win, and like when I got out of college and I was like tens of thousands of dollars in debts, which would have been a lot more now because that was a long time ago. The first job I got out of getting my master's degree was Radio Shack, right? Which was brick and mortar.
I
was a salesperson working at a 1%.
Yes. Perfect example.
I was working at, I think, $3.29 an hour minimum wage and 1% commission. So basically, I had to sell something like $6,000 a day in order to make enough to pay my rent. And that was brick and mortar, and people would come in off the street. And what we would do is we would get those little remote controlled trucks and cars. We'd send them out of the sidewalk and run them around. Then people would follow them.
That'd draw a lot of people in,
and then we would, and then
I think I bought an RC car at your store.
And then we'd say, like, what do you want? He goes, well, I want a computer so I can, my son can learn math, which is always a total lie. And I'm saying, well, I'll show you how to play. Well, before Doom, whatever they had. And as soon as you get someone at a computer game, you sold them the computer. That's what.
So my son can learn math. What year are we talking about?
No, that's
the
like
80s.
80s.
Yeah.
But I mean, the point of the matter is, you would say, okay, but look at this. I'll show you how to play Pong. And as soon as you show them how to play Pong, it's like, oh, they'll buy the computer. They forgot about their son completely because they're on level 6. So. That's how you sell. And
yes,
anyway,
exactly.
That's what I did to start paying off my student debt at $3.29 an hour at 1%. But I learned a lot. I learned how to run a franchise, and it was but I learned one thing in sales in those days of brick and mortar: your feet hurt after 10 hours a day.
You're on them all day long.
Your feet hurt. Oh my gosh! And then when you're done, it's like, okay, I'm almost going to make my. And then your commission would run over a week. So you'd have to make money every hour, and they go, well, Friday we're gonna do inventory, which means no sales.
That's gonna hurt the commission.
But I did learn how to run a franchise.
Actually, that's almost an allegory, or for the
Let's
whole
get back to GameStop
thing.
Okay, so GameStop
they stopped you from selling in order to do inventory. Perhaps
we had to do inventory to sell.
Your commission level too high.
No, but I mean,
they didn't want that.
The point is, you had to do inventory to sell. So, but let's go back to GameStop.
I'm not asking you to argue with me. I'm just saying it's kind of a metaphor.
GameStop was brick and mortar. It's going down the tubes. Then what happened?
Right, and a lot of people think that it's not going to stay up. So the hedge funds, the big Wall Street giants,
And what's the name of this
behemoth.
guy? Isn't there a guy Cohen who got involved in this and lost
You know what? I
billions and billions?
forgot his exact name,
No, but
but
I
he
think
was
there was a guy
one
named
of.
Cohen who lost, I think, billions. I don't know if it was 40 or 50 or 100 billion, but a lot.
Oh yeah, he got. What we all heard was that he could not continue to finance the interest on his shorting. When you short a
Chapter
stock,
11. Chapter
huh?
11.
Perhaps he needed
Okay, now
protection, but
listen.
no, it's an absolute in this type of a deal.
Okay, now
Because
John,
if
I
you
think for the
don't,
listener, John, wait a minute. Let's get to the point. Okay, when you short a stock and you
that's what I
leverage
was
it,
doing.
why don't you explain leveraging? How do you
Okay.
leverage something?
So what happens when you short a stock? You don't own the stock, someone else does. You go to them and you say, "Hey, I have great credit. Loan me the shares of stock and I will agree to pay you interest while I have these shares of stock. I will market them or put them up for sale. And as I predict they will drop in value, I will then execute. I have a requirement to buy them at some point when I enter into the agreement to borrow the shares. Bottom line is that the shares, if they go down, then the money I make is the difference between the value they were when I borrowed them and the value they were when I sold them bought them and then had the right to turn around and sell them.
Okay, well,
Meaning,
let me see if I got this right. Generally, when you're doing a future, you can say, I want to put this 30, 60, 120 days out or whatever. And you could even go a year out, I guess. And you have a time value for this future trade. And generally, when you're doing an option or a future trade, the chances of you winning are like 1 in 5. But if you win 5 times. So it's like a long shot gamble. But the hedge funds kind of have it worked out where they do both sides and they're smart people.
well, yeah, they use
But they're taking
other
incredible
entities,
risks. They're using incredible risks
other
and they're borrowing a
brokerages.
lot of money, right?
Well, a ton of money.
And if they
But
can't,
typically, when they do this, they do it on what are sure things. So in the GameStop sequence, a bunch of this guy who called himself Roaring Kitty.
I love
Uh,
Roy and Katie. I
Roaring
bow down to
Kitty
Roy and Kitty.
said,
He's
"Hey,"
my guy.
and he got on a subreddit called
You
Wall
know what they
Street
should do
Bet.
with Roy and Kitty? They should put Roy and Kitty in charge of the Federal Reserve.
You're a fan of Roaring Kitty.
I love
All right.
Federal. I mean, I bow
Yeah,
down.
no, I mean he did well. He did a good thing because
Exactly what he got on Reddit, and he said,
Wall
"All of
Street,
you poor
they
people."
call individual buyers that sit at home like
Well,
we are on our
well,
computers.
let's
Are
explain
you going to
Robinhood.
interrupt me every time?
Robinhood is most of these guys like the Cohens. They put $1 billion here and they put $1 billion here, and you got institutional investors putting 30 billion here and 50 billion here. Now Robinhood guys put like $100 in, right?
Sure. Or
Okay,
500
so
bucks
this guy,
or 50 bucks.
Roaring Kitty got on Reddit and said, all you guys, we've got a guy who's got billions and tens of billions of dollars.
These were all day traders on this Wall Street
Let's
Bet
fight this
subreddit.
guy. I want to get a bunch of you guys putting in 50 or $100 a piece and fight this guy who has tens of billions of dollars. And he won. Isn't that what happened?
Yeah. I mean, that's a bit of an oversimplification, but yeah, he said everybody. These guys are massively shorting this stock. They have shorted it to, just to an extreme beyond 100% of the stock.
No, but wait a minute. Didn't they buy more shorts than stock existed? They bought
yes. They went to like 120, 130, 140%.
No, they bought 150%.
And the way that works is if I borrow it and I'm going to transact in it, the guy behind me also wants to borrow it. And I say, okay, I'll loan some to you as well. He's going to pay me some interest. I'm going to pay the original holder of the stock interest. And we all have an agreement to buy that stock at a certain point in time.
You're talking about a cascade domino effect, really.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened. And in this case, the dominoes all fell down. Okay, well, I think it's going to move on. We're going to move on to our next episode, and we're glad you all could come on. John, it looks like you got a little connection freeze up, and we'll talk to you in episode 8. And thank everybody for coming and watching Dead On GameStop and the shorting and how the hedge fund guys got taken advantage of or played by a guy named Roaring Kitty. Okay, good night, and we'll see you on the next episode.